This is the job seeker split, and I'm showing you something 99% of my talent acquisition peers, hiring managers, founders, and leadership I've worked with, and recruiting stakeholders involved in the process never consider the type of applicant that their job descriptions attract. The talent pool is made up of three job seeker types: aspirational job seekers who hate their job and often their industry, active job seekers who have to change jobs, usually for reasons beyond their control, and passive job seekers who only consider new roles that represent career moves. These two types only make up 30% of the talent pool, but the bulk of most job applicants. Aspirational job seekers usually end up in the no pile because they're underqualified, so they can go. Active job seekers, because of the way job descriptions are written, are the source of most hiring mistakes. If you think of jobs as products and job seekers as buyers, then most active job seekers, at least 50%, are reluctant buyers who have to buy. They're having to think tactically, not strategically, and their circumstances are forcing them to make short-term career decisions that are actually deadline induced usually, so they have to apply for as many roles as possible. The longer their job search goes on, the more likely they are to take a job that probably isn't a good fit. So they have to play the numbers game. They register with multiple recruitment agencies and get job alerts from all of the job boards. And crucially, auto apply for anything with their job title, because most don't have time to read job descriptions unless they get an interview request, which somewhat explains why bad job descriptions still get applicants. Most will end up taking lateral transfer jobs, same role, different company, effectively a sideways move, and then either quickly move on or perform like disengaged, bored B players. And that's because this hire satisfied an urgent need for the hiring company, but offered very little in the way of professional growth or new challenges for the new joiner. And I've watched hiring managers spend weeks and even months chasing the strongest of these candidates through the interview process, only to lose them somewhere around offer stage due to such high demand for this small slice of the talent pool. These passive job seekers, however, who make up the other 70% of the talent pool, are ironically the most enthusiastic buyers, but apply for almost nothing. They don't have to make deadline-induced career decisions. They also receive job alerts, but as sophisticated buyers, they won't make a purchase without first doing their research, just like we all do before buying a high-value item. So they skim every job description and only apply for jobs that represent career moves. And according to analysts, over 90% of job advert viewers don't click apply. Because of the high volume of open roles, usually upwards of 1,000, each job only has about 30 seconds to grab their attention. So they spend most of their time reducing this pile by looking for red flags. And these can be anything from disingenuous mission statements, too many superlatives, poor tone, or the industry standard dull jobs filled with low-level lists of tasks and duties. Because for them to make an informed decision, they must be shown the scope and scale of a role before they'll hit apply. Passive job seekers are easy to find, but they're hard to engage, as they say. When we do get them interested, we have almost no competition. They're not going on multiple interviews and might not interview again for another 3 months. They're specifically interested in our role because it represents a genuine career move. They're actually leaving their job or considering leaving their job for our job, whereas active job seekers were leaving their job anyway. So it's a bigger commitment, and when they do join, they have a bigger impact and they stay longer because their barriers to entry are high, but so are their barriers to exit. But here's the madness. 95% of hiring companies end up competing for this 20% of the talent pool. The high-risk job seekers making deadline-induced career decisions based on short-term thinking. And the question I ask every hiring manager I work with: who would you rather hire? Someone who reluctantly needs a new job, or someone who enthusiastically wants a better job? The next slide explores the job description dichotomy, which is at the core of suboptimal recruiting. The job description dichotomy is the gulf between what job seekers want to see and what hiring companies show them. This is a classic example. CarWow has used the whole document to publish a wish list of skills and experience that describes what someone thinks is their ideal candidate, whereas their ideal candidate wants to see a description of their ideal role before they'll apply. It just talks about what the hiring company wants. It's a person specification, not a job description. And content that only talks about what the hiring company wants should only be shown to potential candidates after the reader has established it's a job they're interested in. Unless you're a FANG or a prestige global brand, the job advert is the first time most job seekers will come across your company. And the purpose of this document is to turn the reader into an applicant. With the huge amount of jobs to choose from, that will only happen if they're given a good reason to apply. The first 3 paragraphs have been wasted on company-centric information that holds no interest for high performers. Most experienced knowledge workers are mission ambivalent and somewhat product agnostic these days. The role itself needs to represent a career move first and foremost, and that's not just for engineering roles, but for high performers in any role. Population tendencies. Most of us are driven by self-interest, and the only thing on the reader's mind is what's in it for me, and they need to see it quickly, far quicker than this. The first paragraph repeats the job title and the location in the title area. The second paragraph is a dull mission statement, quite frankly. And the third paragraph, for some reason, talks about their backers. And about the role, lacks any specifics. They've listed out industry standard product leadership activities, deliver great customer service, experience even, work with stakeholders, lead the technical delivery, build OKRs, coach the team. It's just not explicit enough. There's just no why in any of this. Why should a successful lead data engineer apply? This will get the usual 80 auto appliers who applied for the other 900 roles but didn't read them. And 2 important things to think about when creating job descriptions. The first is a question: is the juice worth the squeeze? And this is a cost-benefit analysis every passive job seeker or high performer makes before hitting the apply button. Would I leave my current job and start from scratch, building trust, credibility, and hopefully friendships with new people for this role? And the other thing, again, we're dealing with population tendencies. What's the first thing we do as hiring managers when reviewing someone's career history? We look for achiever pattern, an upward trend in terms of accomplishments. A job that lists nothing to accomplish won't attract people who are driven by accomplishments. So a quick look at the set page 2. Responsibilities. Language is more important than people think. You will be there. You will help to shape. You will lead the data engineering team. You will develop and enhance our data. You will collaborate with and mentor. You will define a roadmap of initiatives. You will contribute to a diverse engineering culture. You will identify the important technical differentiator. All of these you wills smack of micromanagement. High performers expect collaboration. And despite being a leadership role, there appears to be no autonomy in this language. And if you separate the text from the job description, it sounds more like a ransom note or instructions for an automaton than an invitation to apply for an exciting high-impact role, leading a team of specialists. And there's nothing compelling in this list of generic everyday activities. There's no scope, no scale, it's devoid of challenges. They've not mentioned any specific projects that need to be accomplished, so there's no professional growth opportunities here. There's basically no upside in this for someone who's looking for a better job. Let's check response requirements even. Previous experience as a senior data engineer or technical lead, knowledge of data modeling, SQL, Python, Terraform, Snowflake. Learn continuously. I don't like to learn continuously, said no one ever. Experience in delivering work that has measurable impacts and value to stakeholders. This is a list of generic experience that any competent data person will have. The first line appears to have been written by an exasperated hiring manager looking to eliminate auto applicants, which won't happen. This line here asks for evidence of success, applicants with achiever pattern, accomplishments, promotions, but job seekers with achiever pattern won't apply for this. And this caveat here, we'd encourage you to apply if you're not an exact match. Well, why publish this long list of boilerplate prerequisites, then contradict it? Quickly check benefits. Well, ignore these because they're pretty standard. From a DEI perspective, they've just shot themselves in the foot. That last requirements page and the other page is huge list stuff with keyword technology and tasks and experience and skills. A recent HP study showed that men will apply for jobs if they only meet 60% of requirements, whereas women will only apply when they meet almost 100. High performers look for evidence of 4 things in job descriptions: challenge, accomplishment, recognition, and reward. None of those is mentioned in this document. And 95% of companies churn these out day after day. Excuse me. Here's a few quick examples of advertising on LinkedIn, just to further illustrate my point from the earlier slide, previous slide. Let's for a second imagine we're a high-performing USA-based senior data scientist who's thinking about our new challenge. We do a quick search on LinkedIn, find there are 175,000 plus jobs with our desired job title. LinkedIn numbers can be misleading, so let's round that down to 1,700 jobs, which is still a lot. We don't have time to review them all, so we'll have to skim and save the ones that look interesting. GoPro, a global brand. This job has been reposted an hour ago, so it's clearly failed at least once. The first paragraph tells us that, what we already know about GoPro, nothing new, except that they've somehow turned a really useful camera into a force for positivity and awesomeness. The second paragraph tells us that they celebrate diversity and practice inclusion, foster belonging, and that's clearly a good value to have. But I joined them because they had a strong DEI policy, said no one ever. It's the icing, that is the icing on the cake and not the cake. If the job says nothing compelling within 30 seconds, then that's irrelevant. And the third paragraph, bizarrely, gives us the founder's name and the year it was founded for some reason. We get to the role finally. Our 30 seconds are almost up. And this tells us we'll be responsible for supporting tactical, operational and strategic business choices by delivering relevant, reactive and proactive insights to key stakeholders. There's no scope, no scale and no explicit challenges to get me excited. My 30 seconds are up, so I'll pass on this one. MLOps Engineer LLM, UK, Selden, 39,710 jobs. Solve the world's most challenging problems, Selden are. Well, it sounds ambitious, but only 55 people believe them. For some reason, Selden have used this whole document to tell the reader, who is hopefully already a machine learning engineer, what every machine learning engineer already knows. Machine learning will be at the core of every connected business. They've created a culture that they're proud of. Well, that's better than not being proud of it. You'd be working within the tech team to drive and design implementation of the LLM inference framework. This is boilerplate duties for any ML engineer. This is a no. Only deadline-induced job seekers would apply for jobs identical to their own. Same situation, data scientist, but this time in the UK. Auto Trader, a big brand. 27,739 job results. Let's say 2,700 to keep it real. 38 applicants in 6 days. And I'm skimming again because I've got only 30 seconds. This one is cluttered with cliches. We're seeking an exceptional data scientist, crucial role, driving, a data cutting edge cloud data platform. We're seeking an exceptional data scientist. I'm not exceptional, said no data scientist ever. Teams are dynamic. We'll be jointly responsible for delivering key objectives. Well, what are the objectives? As a senior data scientist, I'm looking for a job because I want bigger objectives. I need to see what the objectives are. Shaping the roadmap. What is your roadmap? Where are you on your roadmap? Are you ahead of me or behind my own roadmap? This one is just too vague and I'm not desperate, so this is a no. And finally, just to illustrate, it's not just tech jobs that are talent repellents. Brand manager, UK, marketing role this time, 754 results, and Team 17 have managed to snag 1/10 of those, or it's a 10-to-1, I should say, ratio of jobs to candidates. So they're competing for the 20% active job seekers. They're telling to statistics. I mean, this job is a key member of our team: passion, high energy, positive outlook, creativity, commercially minded, strategic thinking, ability to schedule and execute. Again, it's littered with cliches. And the telling statistic that no one ever talks about is job views, which the job poster can see. As I say, this has got 75 applicants. There will be triple that who viewed it but didn't apply. And they will be the high performers looking for a career move. I've called this one the yin and yang of suboptimal recruitment because there's no upside to this way of working. Having come from the executive search space, where I spent almost no time with internal talent teams, aside from the occasional chat when they wanted to vent, joining these scale-ups was a light bulb moment for me because I finally got to see what was behind the curtain. All 4 companies had the same avoidable internal issues, which could be traced back to these poor job descriptions. And they broadly fell into 4 categories. People debt, which was a mixture of underperformers and people churn, which is a quality of hire issue. Poor engagement, where not enough people care and the best people carry the worst. Talent acquisition team bloat, where the talent team expands as more and more sourcing is needed for more roles. And cost of hire, which can spiral as project deadlines loom. And let's explore these 4 key issues in a little more depth. People debt is avoidable. What I found was, from a senior stakeholder and leadership perspective, people debt is somewhat a mystery. The talent team appear to be doing the right thing. They're enthusiastic and committed. They have a slick tech stack in place that promise to make managing candidates and filling jobs easier, and yet people debt is still being generated. But when your teams are mostly made up of active job seekers whose decision to join were tactical, not strategic, and then with significant numbers leaving earlier than expected because they're not challenged, or worse, despite having the skills and experience, stick around but don't perform, team morale is massively impacted. A 90-person scale-up I was with, which was being forced to double in size to get their Series B, were losing 2 staff for every 3 hires each month. Open roles leads to poor engagement. Low morale and subsequent poor engagement led to project creep, and then burnout for some became a thing. The best people found themselves overcommitting to compensate and then would reluctantly leave sooner than they might have done. There were never-ending interview pipelines where the best of these active job seekers took other offers, which led to critical roles being subsequently dumbed down due to perceived talent shortage. And this resulted in bigger teams but no improvement in productivity. As talent lead, I inherited critical roles that had been open for up to 5 months because leadership expected the talent acquisition team to cover all of recruitment, including key hires using the same process as day-to-day roles. And of course, the talent team are not going to say they can't deliver. Each time I see a reposted job on LinkedIn, I hear a former colleague, TA person in my head saying, maybe we should change the job title. Excuse me. Ignoring the elephant in the room, which is the job description itself, is not compelling. And bloated talent teams. These talent teams had become bloated due to needing more and more people to manually source for each role. where they convinced themselves and leadership that there was a talent shortage. And because of cut and paste job description and poor quality applicants, they would spend weeks screening candidates that didn't get job offers. And at this point, their sourcing messages also left a lot to be desired. Because if you can't write a compelling job description with 500 words to play with, you'll hardly capture it in a 500 character LinkedIn email or via other short form channels. And when you're consistently attracting the wrong candidates, being a recruitment tech stack whiz or advocating great candidate experience becomes somewhat superfluous. Excuse me. And finally, the hidden cost of hire. A lot of these roles could have been filled without all of that hard labour, and indeed were. But when these job descriptions and all of the sourcing didn't surface candidates in time, I watched previously rational hiring managers become disorganised buyers, blowing up hiring budgets on no-win, no-fee recruitment agencies. And unfortunately, hiring managers didn't know how to assess recruitment providers, so they were talking to any recruiter who sent them a CV in the past. Most of these so-called experts in their field were selling mobile phones and gym membership 9 months previous, and their CV submissions were no better than the same job seekers our own talent acquisition team were attracting. And having seen all this firsthand, it's no surprise to me that industry thought leaders now say the odds of success are 50-50 on new starters, because hiring active candidates into sideways moves is exactly that, a coin toss. The next slide details how we turned it all around. I initially joined my first scale-up as talent acquisition lead with a remit to only focus on critical hires, and was subsequently told by the talent team that job adverts didn't work. But every job description they created was the dreaded person specification, and they were giving the best job seekers no reason to apply. So I started a mantra, something that I always consider before I create a job description, which was, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? And also introduced two rules. Good jobs equal good candidates, and smart people will not move sideways. And we workshop questions such as, how can we differentiate our jobs from the other 300 on LinkedIn, 300 plus? How can we make our job descriptions more engaging? What language do we need to change to make them stand out? How can we avoid hiring average and underperformers? How can we avoid people leaving, good people leaving within 12 months? And how useful is our general employee value proposition? And how compelling is it to job seekers? And then we're working with hiring managers, we turned the job description process on its head. We built candidate personas for each role, and from them we created job descriptions that described our ideal candidate's ideal role. I introduced the Tell Then Sell job description framework, where we removed the general EVP about us and instead personalised the EVP for each role, because commercial people are not interested in the same information as technical people. So the first 3 paragraphs were devoted to context of the role, not the company. Instead of a prescriptive list of skills and technology required to do the job, and because technology changes rapidly, Amazon Web Services change every month is a great example. We were explicit about our tech stack, the team structure, and we listed problems that needed to be overcome to accomplish OKRs within the role that tied into company goals. So missions within missions, if you like. And which then left it up to the reader to decide if they were qualified based on the tech stack and the OKRs. We also no longer needed the dual duties bullet points, because unless you're doing something very different, which most companies aren't, we all work, commercial models are pretty similar. Experienced applicants already know what the job involves. We were explicit about the compliments and the resulting recognition, and we eliminated weasel phrases such as bonus points for and nice to have. These phrases intimate, we think we're the only gig in town, and one look at the volume of open jobs tells us otherwise. Prescriptive character cliches such as passionate, motivated, proactive, self-starter, dynamic, good communicator, I could go on. All these were banned. If the role represents a career move, it will encourage these characteristics because these job seekers really want the job. We used inclusive and collaborative language throughout the document. Sentences starting with you will, and even the title requirements were dropped. Instead, we were humble and asked for help solving our problems. And the resulting job adverts instantly improved the candidate quality, and at least 50% of the jobs that had needed a month of sourcing were now being filled by those adverts. And in fact, within 6 weeks, we'd halved the talent team's time spent on LinkedIn outreach. Of course, you can't fill them all like that, but at least you're able to focus the sourcing on the most deserving roles. And I went on to apply this approach at the next 3 scale-ups. And just a quick aside, there's another hidden benefit to designing jobs this way. It introduces certitude into the hiring process. There is a subtle difference between applicants that apply for any job with a job title and those that apply for a well-designed job advert. With a job ad, with a bad one, you know that those applicants just need another job. With a good one, you know that there will be applicants in there that applied because it represents a career move. And if you publish a well-written job and don't get suitable applicants, you can be absolutely certain there's no talent shortage. I'm happy to share case studies on this. Well, it wouldn't be a presentation without some key takeaways. There is no such thing as a talent shortage, just a shortage of jobs worth applying for. Smart people don't have to change jobs. They won't apply unless the role is described as a career move. People always act out of self-interest. If there's no what's in it for me in your job description, the best job seekers won't apply. Knowledge workers have a lot of jobs to choose from. And population tendencies, we're just not really an altruistic species. And technology that promises to make managing candidates and filling jobs easier only works if you're attracting candidates you actually want to hire. I love technology, but recruitment technology is a real bugbear for me. Recruiters and hiring stakeholders tend to think that the new shiny thing will do their work for them. This year is ChatGPT, which, if used for talent attraction, will make these jobs even blander than they already are.